Welcome to the Believe, Be Real, Be Bold podcast for authentic dating in Denver. My name is Dave Glazer, your host and facilitator, where each week we bring expert guests to come share their knowledge, tools, and tips so that we can show up as our most authentic self. Hi, welcome back to the Believe, Be Real, Be Bold podcast. I have a rare treat. Geoff Laughton has decided to join me in person this time. He is a former guest on the podcast. Known as the Relationship Architect, but also I want to throw out a few extra things like published author, prolific speaker. You were a panelist at the How to Thrive While Dating in Denver event.
Which was awesome for a guy who hasn't dated in nearly 40 years.
Yeah, thanks again for coming. It's so funny. And most importantly, I'm a part of the Evolving Man group. And this has been a transformational, exponential growth phase and period in my life, and thanks to the work that we get done in this group. And I'm so grateful for you to come back out and discuss with me what it is for men nowadays. Like, there's a lot of topics we can cover, but we're going to really focus in.
Great.
So thanks again for coming in. Do you want to add anything to that list of quick intro that I gave?
Well, I think the only thing I'd add that I'm particularly proud of is I'm also a husband, and I've been able to thus far pull off being married to the same person for 37 years, 37 and a half, and that we actually still like each other and love each other, because my parents were together for half a century and didn't really care for each other for about 49 of the 50 years they were together.
Ouch.
So I'm really, really proud of that. And I also am the father of two men. I always want to call them two boys, but
they're in their 30s, aren't they?
One's in his early 30s and the other one's in his mid 40s.
Uh-huh.
And so they're great men. And that has more to do with them, but I'm proud that I played whatever part I played in helping them grow up with a level of awareness about what it can mean to be a man and how to treat women and how to treat people. So that probably is the thing I'm most going to want to go to my grave being remembered for.
Well, that's a great legacy to leave behind. It's one thing I've always kind of forgotten in the introduction of our guests on the podcast is who are you personally? And I think maybe I can add that in for other guests moving forward. I'm always learning. I'm always pushing myself and outside of my own comfort zone and my boundaries. And I gotta forget that I'm not all work all the time.
No.
Even though I'm hosting the podcast, it's not just business. I've gotten to know you pretty well over the last 9 months or so.
Yeah.
Now getting even deeper involved in a relationship with you because I look up to you. I respect your knowledge and your experience, and I believe that we've connected faster than just the podcast episode that we did about 6 months ago.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, and that what you just shared. Not about your connection to me, but about we're not just our jobs. That's one of the fundamental things that drives everything we do with TEM, the Evolving Man.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about the Evolving Man here in a second.
Yeah, so TEM for short, everybody. That's one of the things that drove me into doing men's work as a participant. 20 years ago.
Yeah, because of your corporate life moving beyond, my identity is not my job. So for our listeners, let's just really quickly, how and why did you start the Evolving Man as a nonprofit?
Right, sure. Well, the first in 2000, I went and did a men's weekend, and I was 42. And I'd been out of the corporate world for a few years, but I hadn't quite gotten the point that my identity is not my job. I just shifted my identity has to be my new job, my new career, which was coaching. And when I went and did that weekend, I also, my younger son was 13. And that weekend really opened my eyes to what I never got when I was a teenager in terms of healthy male role models, because I grew up with a single mom. So there wasn't, really a healthy male presence around. And so when I went and did that weekend, after having all previous 40 years be where I was so comfortable with women. I knew women, I was raised by women, I could talk woman, that stood me in good stead professionally. And I really enjoyed them, and I didn't trust men. I didn't trust men farther than I could throw them, because any of the most important men in my life had
always left,
hurt me.
Yeah.
Or had been abusive, or both. So I really would have never ever anticipated that. But that's really inconvenient when you have a young teenage son who's like, okay.
They need some direction.
Yeah.
And they need it fast.
Well, what's this dude thing? I mean, how do I do this?
We don't get a manual.
No, hell no. And so I really dove headfirst into that work that I had done working for the organization that put on that weekend, which is the Mankind Project. So it was the New Warrior Training Adventure. And that weekend changed my life. And I've sent a lot of men to that weekend. I still do. I believe in it. But to answer your question about how TEM came along, after being involved with Mankind Project for about 6-7 years, I started feeling something was missing. And what was missing was how can a man, because MKP's work was very much about putting a man right there with his shadow. Okay, this is your dark...
Yeah, gotta go there, otherwise...
This is your dark shit, and if you don't own it or see it, then you're really only living half a life, and the half you're living is all about trying to cover up your shit. So then you're not being you, and the people who love you don't really get you.
And then you're doing them a disservice, and
absolutely,
they're not living the best lives that they possibly can be either.
So after many years of doing that, I really just felt like, all right, the next step is, okay, always keep your eye on your shadow, because I don't for a minute profess that mine's all gone, that it doesn't come up.
Yeah, how can it be?
It came up this morning. So it...
Okay. Yeah, we had a phone conversation a few weeks ago about my shadow arising pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And you said on the phone that, well, Dave, of course, you're never going to see it coming.
Right. No. So I wanted to, keep one eye on that ball, but then what about everything that's great about men? What about, sometimes it's called your gold, it's called your
purpose,
essence, purpose, and I got really hot for doing that kind of exploration. So I did a bunch of other work sometimes with a partner, sometimes on my own. There was always, ever since I did that weekend, I have never not been in a men's circle. Not once. So 19 years. Mm-hmm. And that was when I lived in southwestern Colorado and California. So TEM came about because I moved from Durango. It'll be 13 years this November. I moved up to where I live near Boulder. And I went to a couple of MKP groups looking for a new group to belong to. And I wasn't finding anything that really resonated with me. So I met a guy that I hit it off with, and I said, hey, you know a men's group around? No. Well, why don't we start one?
Yeah, why don't we dive all in?
Let's build a barn and have a show. So I started doing, it wasn't TEM then, but we started doing a group at a church that I was going to at the time. Then that grew, and then I wanted to do my own thing. So we just started doing a group out of my home. And then it was about 3-4 years ago that my partner Mark Johnson, who leads your group, he approached me. He was just a member of a group, and he approached me and said, you know, I really think you got something here, and I'd love to help you build it, and I think you should be a nonprofit. And there were business and tax reasons for that, but we also both kind of liked the idea that we were happy with making money, but this was a movement, and it seemed at the time like a nonprofit was going to really be a better way to start it, and it had an energy that, like, we're not IBM looking to...
Yeah. You're attracting purpose-driven men.
Exactly.
With a purpose-driven organization, like a nonprofit.
Yeah. So that was, TEM came into being then. That was the name that came to us. And now, here we are 3 years since we officially became TEM, and we've gone from 2 circles to 9.
9. There's a virtual circle too, isn't there?
Right.
So people from across the country can get involved and stay involved with the group
Across
that they
the
love.
world. We have one guy in that group who lives in Bangkok.
No kidding.
So he it's 8 in the morning his time, so it works for him.
Oh, that's perfect, yeah.
So he's in there, and that's another part that we're really excited to grow. Because there are a lot of men, if they're drawn to this kind of work, they don't have that where they live.
Yeah.
They're
hard to find, absolutely, for sure.
If you live in Iowa or you live in Nebraska, there's not a lot of options available for you. So we wanted to make it available to any man anywhere on the planet.
Now, why is it important for men to gather in groups?
Because we are fundamentally full of crap.
Yeah, 20 years of my life spent slinging BS.
Yeah, close to 40 for me.
Okay.
So, I think there's a reason for any human being to be in a group of some kind, periodically, if not consistently. And it's the same reason why men need to be in groups, and women had it figured out a long time before we did, is because left to this device, my mind, your minds lie every single day.
Yeah, they're going to tell ourselves a story, and over time we're going to start to believe every single word of that story.
Right. We all are prone to believing our ego's PR. So being in a group of people that are committed to a similar ideal, specifically authenticity, being real, depth, going deep, building a life that you're not going to go to your deathbed going, damn it, I blew that one.
Yeah.
So with that shared purpose and desire, you need to have other mirrors that are going to show you either where you're full of it, or what changed my life so much about the New Warrior Weekend was actually having people tell you what's amazing about you that your ego has spent decades denying or trying to suppress. And we need both of those things. We need to know where we're fallible, we need to know where we're lying to ourselves, but we also need to know where we're lying to ourselves about our power, our strength, our ability to love, our ability to do amazing things that is not unique to men, but we have a flavor of that men really need to own, and we need to be able to include our heart more. So with our groups, we emphasize purpose. We emphasize that you follow what your own spirit, heart, whatever you might believe in. We're not a religious organization at all. But if you believe that you have a spirit, if you have just that much, then that needs to be the navigator and the captain. And then the mind can be a great kind of make sure stuff happens that needs to happen. So that's why we need to have places where we can't lie very easily. And no matter where I've been in the country, you get a group of guys who don't know each other, maybe have never met each other, but you're all there with one thing in mind, which is, I want to be able to have a safe place to just open.
Mm-hmm.
If you never met a man in there, but some guy starts spouting BS, he's gonna get called.
Mm-hmm.
You can read a guy like that, and you don't need to know him to feel if he's authentic or if he's full of it.
Yep. About a year ago, I had done a lot of work on my own, and what I came to realize was that I was alone, kind of a man on an island, and that I also didn't know how to have good relationships with men.
Right.
You know, much like yourself, I had seen a pattern of relationships as a child or as a young adult with men, didn't work out, didn't trust them very well.
Right.
And so I was actually putting it out there, hey, do the men I know want to gather in a place on a regular basis? It could be virtual, or it could be over the phone, or it could be in person. Do I know 5 men who want to come grow with me, push each other, and level up?
Right.
What I wasn't ready for at the time, which is why it never worked out, is I'm not supposed to be the leader in that room. I'm not the facilitator of that room. I needed the facilitation,
Right.
you know? And that was me understanding that I couldn't believe my own BS for much longer, and that I needed some outside eyes on my life that maybe wasn't a paid counselor.
Right.
Men who are just like me, who want the same thing, who are also willing participants of the process.
Right.
And that's what I found with TEM. Per your suggestion, which is how we closed out your episode about 6 months ago, you invited me to attend one of the TEM.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what I was getting myself into, but you know.
I appreciate that you're still talking to me.
I've seen a lot of growth for me personally, but what that room offers me, and what I've seen as a result, is that trustful connection with other men.
Yeah.
We went out socially the other night, and it was almost like the men who gathered socially outside of the group, they weren't going to stand for the small talk.
Right.
They weren't going to stand for idle conversation. And the depth, of course, it didn't go as far as when we were alone in a group for 2 hours, and because that's appropriate, we were there socially, sending off one of our members to California. It was a great reason to gather. But still, it was deeper than all other male social outings I've ever been to.
Yeah.
Because we had connection, because we trust each other, because we have purpose for being there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I saw the picture. You guys looked like you were having a great time.
Yeah, absolutely. A bunch of good men in that group, and a guy friend of mine reached out with a relationship challenge that I didn't know how to handle, and we sat down, we had coffee, and we were honest with each other. I'm like, I don't know the best course of action for you right now, but I do know somebody who does. And connected him with you, and here we are.
Yeah.
Better friends for it.
Yeah.
Like I can't stress enough how thankful I am for that friendship and your guidance, because I'm certainly not the guy to send him to.
Right. Well, thank you for that, by the way.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. That's the purpose of this community, right?
Yeah.
That was like the vision that I had all along. Is like, okay, I don't know everything. Truth number one that we need to tell each other.
Wait, what? That's not something we're supposed to ever admit.
I don't know everything, but I knew a few people in Denver who did.
Yeah.
Or at least knew more than I did. So I started talking
Right.
to them. Yeah, I started talking to them and recording it, and then here we are with this community in 30 countries and 5,000 downloads or something like that.
That's awesome.
Building on that conversation, why do men need to be heard and listened to?
Well, really, before going too deep into that, the very first answer is because everybody needs to be heard and listened to. And anybody who tells you they don't is so deeply wounded and covering up that wounding by pretending, no, I'm good. I don't have anything I need to talk about. And, and that's another reason you mentioned friendship and being able to have people that are going to push each other and challenge each other. Well, humans need that. I mean, we just have a particular flavor of it that wouldn't really completely map to women. Women's circles are very different than a men's circle. But they both serve the same thing, which is giving human beings an opportunity to be heard, to be felt, to be understood, and to be compassionately offered the reflections that are going to help them get where they want to get. Why I think men, and I've actually led a couple of women's circles, oddly enough, which was awesome. It was like, what? I'm not well equipped. And they said, no, you're perfectly equipped. So getting a little bit of an inside view of how women interact with each other in a circle. Same goal, same objective, how they do it, and then how we tend to do it. Some of you might be astonished to find out that it's not as different as you might think. Men are more direct. We're definitely, more probably in our masculine energy. But people need it. I mean, number one, the times we live in. The whole world, whatever your political thing might be, there's no denying that our planet is in deep shit. And there's so much division, so much hate. And so anything that strikes out hate and allows avenues for people to understand each other, because we have in TEM, we have Democrats, we have Republicans, we have Christians, Jews, atheists, Buddhists. We're just people. And we interact with each other. I don't even know what half the people in TEM do for a living, and I don't care. I just care about...
Unless that might be one of the big rocks that they're trying to move.
Well, right, yeah, there's that.
Yeah.
And so men will talk about that. But
of course.
We need an avenue to be able to have some hope and to be able to feel in a world where we don't, in my view, we don't have enough agency with our country or our environment or our world right now, then any place we can get some agency for our well-being and the alignment and integrity of who we are as human beings, that ain't gonna hurt, and it can only help, really. So that's my answer.
I love it, and that's why I'm there, is because I need agency. But most importantly, I need an avenue or an outlet that's not my partner.
Oh my God. Okay, well now that you brought that
Yeah, let's talk about it, because it literally cleared up like my vision of why I'm so passionate about attending. Like, I don't miss that meeting. It's a non-negotiable. It's a priority for me, because I won't, and this is why we're going to talk about it. I won't necessarily overshare early in a relationship if I have a sounding board and a trusted environment. And that's truly what I need as a man, so that I can have a healthy relationship with my partner.
Okay, so this also veers a bit into the relationship architect work I do.
Yeah.
So this is something I talk to every couple I work with, which is no relationship, unlike what Hollywood would have you believe, and unlike what I think my parents believed and my grandparents, is no relationship, married or just a committed partnership, can bear the weight of being the Walmart of your life.
Yeah, it cannot answer every single question, and it's not supposed to either.
No, but there's that pressure.
Yeah.
And, a guy I respect a lot in the relationship field, a guy named Terry Real, he and Esther Perel both talk about the pressure that is on men and women, on relationships, that you're supposed to be my therapist, you're supposed to be my coach, you're supposed to be my lover, you're supposed to be my partner in crime,
Best
as a
friend,
parent,
yeah.
best friend. And, to me, that is like sanctioned codependence. It's inherently not healthy.
It's almost like glorified.
Glorified, yeah.
Like Hollywood really glorifies this end-all, be-all soulmate kind of.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jerry Maguire.
Sure, you
Classic case.
complete me.
You complete
which
me.
is
I wanna
like the
friggin'
biggest
throw
fraud.
up.
Right.
Jeez. I mean, me being me, I could never have married a woman who wanted me to be the be-all, end-all, alpha and omega. And when I was a young man, a teenager and all that, I actually did want that. I bought that narrative, and I looked for girls and women that seemed like they were going to fulfill that. And of course, what I learned, thankfully, at an early age, is not only how that doesn't work, but even if a woman kind of goes, oh, I love being that, sooner or later she's like, ugh,
Because no woman wants to be your new mother.
no woman wants to be your new mama.
Yeah,
And so
absolutely not.
I took 3 years off of having anything to do with any relationship. I didn't date. I was celibate for 3 years. It was like, okay, I gotta figure out who am I, and of course that's different now. But who was I in my early 20s, and what do I really want? And so
That's a lot earlier than a lot of men actually face that. That's much earlier for self-awareness and a discovery process than most men.
Yeah, I really consider myself lucky in a way.
Yeah.
But that was also why I ended up with the woman I ended up with too.
Because you did work.
I did the work, and my wife's older than I am, and I just wasn't attracted to women my age, even in my 20s. I wasn't, because they didn't want to go where I went.
No, of course not. They weren't also self-aware enough in order to begin that process.
No.
So the guys in our group who are in their 20s, I admire that so much because I'm like, fuck, if only I had started 10 years ago or 15 years ago or whatever. Yeah. Because of the lacking of a ritual for men or for boys to turn into men.
Yeah.
And did you have anything to add to the to what we were just talking about? Like the avenue and the agency that's not your partner to be a sounding board before we move on.
Right. Well, and because in general, many women don't want to be, it can be a double-edged sword. I've seen it go both ways. A lot of the women that I've worked with and known personally over the years, they really like that their husband is powerful, not powerful over them, but powerful in himself. And that allows them to kind of relax and in a way feel even safer because they can depend on him to not collapse and cave. And what makes that dependability more rock solid is when a man goes to his men's circle and he talks about his insecurities, or he talks about what scares him, or he talks about those aspects of his partner that are making him want to tear their hair out, like happened to me. And so that they can work it out with a group of peers, a group of men who understand what it is to... No woman is ever gonna 100% understand what it means to be a man. No woman is gonna be able to fully empathy, yes, but to be in their shoes, they're not gonna be able to do that. And
I love the color of this neighborhood.
Oh yeah, totally. So you've got to, I look at men's groups as being a place where you get to the heart of what you're struggling with so that when you do bring it to your partner, And gentlemen that are watching, you have to bring it to your partner.
Yeah, you can't keep it
No.
still on the island. That defeats the purpose
Right.
of doing the work.
But at least then when you're doing it, if there's something I want my wife to help me figure out, I can say, Sarah, I'm stumped here. Could you help me? But if I come and I go, oh, I can't figure this out. Yeah, I don't need it. She's like, ah.
Yeah.
And so, but if I go to my group and then I come back and I say, I figured something out that's really important. I want to share it with you. And then I want to talk about, how does this make you feel? What do you think? That's a totally different energy. And that's more of an energy of partners, like Mark and I are partners in TEM. We bring stuff to each other, and we put both of our minds together about what we want to build and how we want it to be. So with a marriage or a relationship, too many relationships are not codependent. Be my mom, be my dad, because women marry men that they hope are gonna be the father they never had or they didn't get enough of. So to really be able to come, at least you've gotten all the real messy, for lack of a better word, and all your anger that's gotten vented out, because you can go into your men's group, you can call your partner names, you can call your children names, you can, you get to be real and express that shadow stuff energetically, physically. Then when you come, the man, the king energy that all men have, if they know what it is and how to tap into it, you bring that, and that makes your woman a queen, an equal partner. So that's the only thing I would add.
Mm-hmm. Definitely found that when I leave a TEM meeting, I have a much clearer vision of how to communicate the question marks that I have in my life. Mm-hmm. Like, I definitely will not come out of every single meeting with like all the answers.
Right.
However, there's homework that I can do in between, and before I present it to my partner in the future, I will have a clearer way of saying it.
Right.
And if I've worked out the kinks and the things that I'm not truly 100% sure of in my men's group, then they're sounding boards, and they're also bringing outside eyes to what I'm talking about that applies to my life, so I can bring it home and be that much clearer, more succinct, and absolutely, no matter what, not finger pointing at anybody, because it's teaching me how to take personal responsibility for my choices, my behavior, my past, my future, and my present.
Well, and that's also another really key thing that I love about any men's circle I've been in, TEM, any of the ones that I led or was a member of before that, that piece about extreme self-responsibility. We like a book that you guys have probably heard of called Extreme Ownership.
Yeah.
So,
Jocko Willett.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you are lost as a human being if you aren't able to see what you are fully responsible for, what you're causing, even how you choose to react to something. So a men's group or a women's group, if you're a woman, if that's prized as a core value, ownership, then you get to see all of yourself, like you were just saying. Now I can know what I want to communicate. Your average, working with couples for 22 years, one of the biggest things is, well, you.
Uh-huh.
And, like an old friend said, there's one pointing at you and there are three pointing back at me, chump.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to, if you can really get that part, and that's what's so great about our circles, is because you guys don't buy each other's BS. Mark and I aren't buying it, but what he and I love about the groups as they've really evolved over the last couple of years is sometimes we just get to sit and watch. You know, we just get to watch you guys go and work with each other and push each other and challenge each other. And, you know, actually with the more middle-aged men, that sometimes is a bit harder because we're a little bit more crusty.
Yeah, we're almost more lost because we're conditioned in for a longer period of time.
Right,
yeah,
right.
To be listening to that ego for so long, we have to retrain ourselves in a positive way, in an upfront way, and in a realistic way as well.
Well, and when men call each other on what seems like incongruency, being out of integrity, what you're saying doesn't match the energy I'm feeling, I've really never once, I mean, I've seen men get mad.
I love it.
I've heard about men getting mad.
That's so funny.
But I've never heard a man shame another man. And any of the men that are watching this or listening to this, if you go back to childhood, you're going to be hard-pressed to not think of at least one time where somebody, it could have been your mom or your dad, it could have been a teacher, it could have been a playmate or a schoolmate, shamed you and tried to make you less than. We don't do that. So I can call you on something that feels inauthentic, but you're gonna know that I'm only doing it because I want you to have what you want. I want you to be the best Dave Glazer you can possibly be. And if I blow smoke up your ass and I, want to just pump up your ego, then I'm ripping you off.
Yeah. There are 6 or 7 other men in the same room that meet together willingly that want each other to win and succeed.
Yeah.
And where else in our corporate life, in our personal life, in our sports world, in our buddy-buddy relationships do we find that?
It's not very common.
And before January, most of the guys were strangers.
Right.
And now in May, I would call half of them my better friends than the guys that I left behind in my 20s.
Well, that's really, that's true for me too. The people I'm really closest to now, the majority of them are, like the men that I'm closest to, are people I met through being in men's groups. So, when you get real, you can actually get intimate.
Yep.
And friendship is about intimacy.
Before we jump off today, because I know your time is super valuable, and I appreciate you coming down to the studio. This is not anywhere close to your place at all. After all that being said, what does leadership mean to men and women today, specifically in a relationship?
What I think is that first there's two elements. One is personal leadership, which every human being is responsible for. As much as I'd love it if I could blame all my faults on my wife or my children or my friends, I'm the only one leading this ship named me. Me, my spirit, and my connection to spirit. That's what I strive. I'm not professing to have this mastered, but it's something I strive for. And I would never be able to be with a relationship partner that didn't look at that the same way. I don't mean matching all my beliefs, but if they don't see that they are the leader of their reality in their life, and they expect me to be, oh, I'll just follow you, I'm not interested. So that's part one, is owning personal leadership. And then there's co-leadership. And that's something that a romantic relationship affords a different kind of flavor to it. Because if two equally sovereign people, so I'll put that word in too, leadership is really akin to sovereignty. Personal sovereignty, personal agency, and you share two people that have a lot of wisdom and power, and you bring that together as kind of like a collective think tank with the added benefits of romantic relationship, of sex, and being able to be parents if you and I are both parents. So I know we wouldn't trade that in for anything. So you get those other aspects. But even in navigating that, which is a father of a teenager, there's so much that moms and dads have to deal with that is not easy. And so when you have two sovereign beings co-leading the family, for example, and co-leading where sometimes one person, just doesn't have it to lead for a day or three. The other one picks up the slack. That's one thing I really love about Sarah. We've been through things that should have killed most normal marriages. And the only reason I think, besides our love for each other, that we made it through all that intact is because we've always held that an aspect of leadership is understanding that it isn't about keeping a scorecard. You led 5 ways last week, I led 8, you gotta stop slacking. It's understanding that leadership is about being authentic and in integrity to the best of your ability every friggin' day. And to trust that as long as you're regularly checking in with each other to make sure you're aligned as a team and that you're aligned with yourselves as individuals, in the end, it's all going to even out in the wash. There have been times where Sarah made the money and I wasn't because I was so young when we got together. I was making $11 an hour when we first got together.
That ain't bad 40-some years ago.
No, not bad. And it was big to me. It got me from ramen to Kraft mac and cheese.
That's a huge step up.
So to really be able to understand that leadership is about supporting the best of each of you and using the best of each of you to create the best world and your contribution to it that you can.
Yeah. And I believe it always comes back to us. It starts with you as the sovereign leader of your own life.
Yeah.
And that's something that I had to learn through others by reaching out to people that knew more than I did.
Yeah, me too.
Well, thank you again, Geoff.
My pleasure.
If your message resonates with somebody, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you and TEM?
Okay, so the best way to get a hold of me is you can email me at geoff@yourrelationshiparchitect, or you can, yourrelationshiparchitect.com has everything you need to know about what I do with couples and individuals. And then TEM, theevolvingman.com. 2 E's, THEEVOLVING, man.com. So you can email me through website, you can email me at Geoff@yourrelationshiparchitect, and because I'm in both, whatever you need, I'm going to be able to get back to you.
And there's also an option in meetup.com where you can simply just find out when the next meeting for the Evolving Man is. That's where I send my friends to. That's an easy way for new people to find out what TEM is all about.
Well, and I really want to emphasize that if you don't live in the Front Range of Colorado, but what you're hearing is having you go, then reach out to me, because we want to have more virtual circles. It's a little weird at first, but after a couple meetings, everybody totally gets it. So if you're wanting support as a man, or if you're married to a man that you think could use a conversation about this possibility, then reach out and we can hook you up.
Awesome. Thanks again, Geoff.
My pleasure.
It's mine. The pleasure is all mine. Thanks, guys. I'll talk to you on Friday with a new mini episode. Subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. It goes a long way to help us get the message of the BBR podcast out to more people. Thanks again.